we know the Democrats hate putting the bad guys in prison, right? I mean, Kamala Harris was notorious for bailing out Black Lives Matter protesters throughout the entire summer 2019 riots. And they've now just done it again with this Jussie Smollett. You know, we all know about Jussie. He is the hate crime, race-baiting Hollywood lunatic that tried to convince the world that he was part of a horrible hate crime. So he got caught, thank God, because, you know, it's just getting out of control with the black community trying to convince the world that we hate them. And we don't. It's just simply not true. Trying to convince the world that there's a real racism problem, which, again, there's not. Okay? I don't care what you want to say about the situation. I just don't think America has the race problems that the Democrats try to lead us to believe. Okay? Let's be honest. A lot of it's exasperated. A lot of it's fabricated. Jussie Smollett tried to capitalize on that. He tried to capitalize on the vulnerability of Americans. He tried to cash in on the lies and run with the narrative. And fortunately, he failed. So he goes to jail. And he then claims he's suicidal. Or no, he doesn't claim he's suicidal, but he claims he has psychological issues that prevents him from going to prison. So they put him in some sort of psych ward. Okay? Well, that didn't last long. Because after just within 1 week, Jussie is let out. And he's awaiting an appeal. We have prisoners from January 6th, the Capitol Hill riots, who are still in Gitmo-like conditions. Patriots who took a tour of the Capitol steps, who took selfies, who waved flags, who are in prison without bail, Gitmo-like conditions. They're not allowed to go to mass. Marjorie Taylor Greene just did a interview, did a little bit of a documentary showing the country, showing the world what horrific conditions were making these patriots live in right now for their Capitol building attack. No bail whatsoever. But if you're black, if you're a Democrat, you barely see any jail time. And we see this in New York State with bail reform. We're seeing these criminals be let off day in and day out. And now we're seeing the same thing with Jussie Smollett, where he gets a sentence, something like 150 weeks, whatever it was, gets a prison sentence, and he can't even serve that. And now he's out on bail waiting for an appeal, which we all know is going to be overturned. We know this guy's not going to see a single day of prison because for some reason, again, if you're black, you don't. If you're a Democrat, you don't. So in a 2-1 decision, the court ruled to release Smollett on a $150,000 personal recognizance bond while awaiting an appeal of his conviction that sentenced him to serve 150 days in jail, which again is a joke to begin with. It's not even a freaking year. He couldn't even do 6 months in prison, this guy. I mean, when he got sentenced, he was screaming, "I'm not suicidal." Like, Jesse, chill, bud. Okay, no one's going to Epstein you in prison. We don't really care about you that much. What you did was ridiculous. And yeah, you're probably going to see a real hate crime now. Somebody's going to kick your ass for what you did in prison. And rightly so, you deserve it. But he couldn't even do 6 months. So he claims he's got mental issues. They originally put him in a psych ward, and now he can't even do, he doesn't even have to do that. He gets out on $150,000. So Smollett to be released from jail pending an appeal. Let's break down the article. Because, you know, I just don't get and I don't understand why this is acceptable for a certain demographic, but it's not for others. I mean, if you're a white male in America right now, you're screwed. I mean, you are at the bottom of the totem pole. You know, talk about black privilege at an all-time high. Racism does exist, but it's not towards black people anymore. It's towards white men. Because at the end of the day, look at what we're doing with these people. We're letting black people off at every opportunity that they have. Just because the Democrats don't want any backlash whatsoever, so they're willing to let these criminals go. They're willing to let these murderers go back into the open, to kill again, to rape again, to commit more crimes with zero remorse to what happens to society. All for votes. It's always been for votes. And we're really seeing these Democrat cities be overrun with crime so bad that the police departments can't keep up. They just can't keep up. Defund the police was a disaster. We're now seeing all these Democrat cities now backtracking. They can't put money into their police departments quick enough. But it's too late. It's too little too late because policemen and women, they don't want anything to do with this now. And this is why we're seeing America fall. You know, we've played the way the Democrats want us to play. It's a disaster. It's not working. We're letting these off left, right, and center. They're committing more crimes. They're not proving to us that the system works otherwise. And it's now getting to the point where we're really having murder go through the roof, rape go through the roof, crime are at all times high, up 100, 200, 300%. And we're still not doing anything about it. I see these videos in New York City of people raiding Prada, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Coach. And they're just walking in and they're stealing these products and they're walking out. Nobody's doing a damn thing. It's almost as if we're telling the law enforcement, if they're black, don't do anything. So Jussie Smollett to be released from jail pending an appeal. An appeals court ordered actie Jussie Smollett released from jail Wednesday, just 1 week after being sentenced. What a freaking coward. For making false police reports claiming he was the victim of a hate crime in 2019. So in a 2-1 decision, the court ruled to release Smollett on the $150,000 personal reconnaissance bond while waiting an appeal of his conviction. The former actor was sentenced to just 150 days in jail. Smollett's 39, questioned his own safety if placed behind bars. He shouted, "I am not suicidal," after his sentence was read last week. Jussie's black. He's gay. He was convicted in December on 5 counts of felony disorderly conduct and acquitted on a 6th. He had pleaded not guilty to the counts. So we've got a double whammy here. We've got a black man. He's gay, which I have no problem with. But apparently the Democrats don't want the world to see a black gay man go to prison. It's again, if Jussie was white, if he was straight, he'd be in prison for the next few years without bail. There's no doubt about it. And they've proven us right with January 6th. They've proven how disgusting they can be to American citizens by locking up these January 6th prisoners in these Gitmo-like conditions, horrific conditions, solitary confinement. They're not going through due process. They're not being given the opportunity to get out on bail. The Republicans are nowhere to be seen either, which is the most disgusting part about it. The GOP, Republican leaders, have been absolutely disgusting throughout this entire situation. Now, I'm not denying the fact that some really awful shit was done on January 6th. I'm not making excuses for some of these people that beat the living hell out of cops. It was wrong. It was awful. It was disgusting. But they still deserve to go through due process, just like everybody else. They still deserve their day in court. They deserve an opportunity to get off on bail. They're not flight risks. A lot of these men, women, they don't have any other priors. There's no reason they should be locked up in such horrific conditions. But they're not allowed out. Marjorie Taylor Greene has gone in. Lauren Berber has made a big stink about it, but nobody else is listening. These people's lives are being ruined. I mean, if you could think about, they have families, they have children, and they're not allowed to see them. It's been 2 years since the January 6th Capitol building attack, and these people still have not had their day in court. But we see Democrats, black men, gay, Jussie Smollett, and I'm making a point to call him a black gay man because these are the demographics that we are not allowed to touch in America. You're just not allowed to touch them. And it's almost like they get a free get out of jail pass every single time. How many Black Lives Matter criminals have been sentenced to jail? How many criminals have actually gone through the system? Have had to actually come back and deal with the consequences of their actions from July 2019 when they burned and rioted and looted? We just haven't seen it. Let's see what the American people have to say about the insanity with the Jussie Smollett case and the fact that he doesn't have to do jail time. Gloria says this is such a bad precedent. This sorry excuse for a human should have been sentenced far more harshly and made to stay in prison. Absolutely. The fact that he only got 150 days is ridiculous. It's disgusting. And then he gets off and doesn't even have to serve a single week without being let out on a $150,000 bond. Linda said he had a trial by jury of his peers, found guilty, sentenced by the judge. He deserves to be in jail just like everyone else that has done that crime. This is ridiculous. You know, we are really setting a bad precedent here, a horrible precedent. Because, listen, at the end of the day, they might get away with it, okay? But the American people are going to only take so much before they freaking explode. All right, we can only handle so much of this double standard nonsense, this rules for thee or rules for me, not for thee. There's only so much we can take before people lash out, before we reach boiling point and take to the streets. So this is a bad precedent. And yes, they might get away with it. We might not get away with it. But at some point, we are going to explode. It's going to be a very, very dangerous situation for America. Does our government really want to wait for us to get to that point before they do something to level the playing field? Let's hold that thought. We'll be right back after this message.